Hi, everyone. Good evening. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on this Wednesday cold evening. I specifically chose tonight because I don't know if we have any Bravo fans in here. Last night was the Salt Lake City reunion, and I was definitely not going to be able to miss that. But we'll talk about that. DM me after this outside if you guys want to talk about that. Tonight, we are here to talk about how you can reach your body goals this year. We're here to talk about semaglutide and other treatments to go along with it. But I see that we have about 600 of you, which is insane. I love that. And I am going to publish a quick little poll just to gauge the room and see what brought you here. Whether that's to lose weight with semaglutide or to learn about it, or hey, if you're just here for the $100, that's totally fine. We can go ahead and talk about everything. So you should have seen a little a pop-up up here with the poll. So let me know if you see that and start answering some of those questions just to gauge where you're at. I'm going to go ahead and pin some of the results so you can see what everybody else is here for. Half on semaglutide and wanting to feel confident. Love that. Here for the $100. Great. Well, before we get started, I want to also tell you on the Q&A section, you should be able to ask any questions you would like. You will be able to see other people's questions. So if you have the same questions, you're able to vote on it and click upvote. That way I can see it and moderate it. But for the next 35, 40 minutes, we're going to have some fun. If you're not doing dry January, join me with a glass of wine and let's get started and bring some of our beautiful speakers.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. Welcome, Nicolette. Nicolette, how cringe were you when watching your own video?
I hate hearing my own voice. So thank you for that.
I hate hearing myself too. I'm like, oh, here comes the worst part that I did.
God.
Well, welcome everyone. This is Nicolette, our nurse practitioner. She specifically injects in our Mokina location. And welcome, Faith. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
And Faith, like I mentioned, has been, she's one of our semaglutide clients who's actually been on semaglutide now since March of last year. Before we start trickling over these questions, Faith, I kind of want you to have the floor for a second and tell everybody a little bit about, how did you find images? What made you start semaglutide? How your journey has been and where you are right now?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us to have some girl time or time to talk through my weight loss journey and your weight loss journey potentially. I found images and I was referred by my Botox injector. After having 2 kids, I was trying to feel like my pre-baby self, and she recommended that I reach out to the staff at Images. She said the women there are just incredible and really supportive and could potentially help me with some options related to weight loss. And so I reached out in March. I went through some of the initial testing to see if I was a good candidate, and the rest is history.
I love that. Okay, let's dive into some questions. I'm probably going to ask you some more questions about your journey, Faith, because it's been fantastic. There was a picture on the presentation and your results look amazing. And I just can't wait to see what 2024 has in store for you. So let's get started. Let's talk about a little bit about some side effects. I do have a question on, I'm going to pin the questions too. Oh, great. This is not what I did. Oops. The question pop up for you guys? I don't know where it went, but if somebody was asking about side effects, they said that one of the side effects is feeling a little bit nauseous. I'm going to first turn it over to Nicolette just to talk a little bit about the side effects. And then Faith, I kind of want you to talk a little bit about what you felt when you first started semaglutide.
So, more serious side effects, like I mentioned, thyroid nodules, thyroid masses, um, pancreatitis, acute kidney injury. Again, all more rare. More serious, more common side effects are all GI related. So, two most common that patients report to me are abdominal bloating and constipation. Constipation probably being the number one. So I always recommend patients take some type of like fiber supplement over the counter, like a Metamucil, fiber gummy, and actually walking daily. Walking combats constipation, so doing something like walking can help with that. But nausea specifically, um, as far as that goes, I've had a handful of patients report it. And Faith, I'm sure you can maybe speak a little bit more to this, but I think I've had about 3 different scenarios. So I have had some patients report it right off the bat when they first start the medication, and then they say it goes away. I've had some patients report it when they get into those higher doses of medication. And then the third scenario is patients will report it within that first 24 hours of doing their injection. So when patients tell me that, I usually will recommend them doing their injection in the evening, because then if they're going to sleep, they're not registering that they're getting nauseous for that period of time that they're sleeping. The brain's not registering that. So if that answers, I'm hoping that answers that a little bit more, but maybe Faith, I'm not sure if you have further say on that.
Yes. So because I did that initial testing and I was able to develop some rapport with my nurse at the Chicago location, she was worried that I actually would experience significant side effects because during pregnancy, I experienced extreme hyperemesis, which is just like extreme vomiting and nausea. I would like to say that I didn't experience any side effects and I went really high on my doses and I also took them in the morning. I did my injections in the morning. I also did a lot of the recommended like lifestyle changes though as well to pair with it and had like started that before even like my first administration of the first dose. So like making sure that my diet was healthy, consulting with a registered dietitian and nutritionist, also making sure that I was active. So like I believe you said walking can help with that. I mean, I just incorporated that in. So I was worried about the side effects, the possibility, but so far I have not experienced any of them. But I also think that it's related to some of the lifestyle changes that are recommended.
Great. And I mean, this is what it is, right? This is jumping in and changing your life and your wellness journey. People have been asking this question a couple different ways, but you've talked about getting some testing done before lab work. Nicolette, can you explain a little bit about what kind of testing our providers are looking for in order to be qualified for semaglutide?
Yeah. So basically, you'll go through a consultation. In the consultation, the provider really dives into medical history, family history, basically doing a full, assessment, kind of assessing to make sure family history is there's no contraindications. There's no contraindications per your past medical history, medications. So we kind of dive into all of that during our consults. And then we will get your weight, calculate your BMI, all of those things to ensure that your BMI is where it is supposed to be in order to ethically be able to prescribe the medication to you. And if all of those things align and you do qualify as a candidate, we do require some labs to be done prior to, again, more or less to make sure that everything is within normal limits, so that if your kidney function is impaired, I'm going to refer you to your general practitioner then at that point in time, because if it's already impaired, I can't prescribe you the medication because I don't want to send you into an acute kidney injury, which is reversible. I don't want to go down that road though, and I'm sure nobody else does either. So yeah, there's some labs that do need to be done. We usually say within the last like 6 months to a year. depending on what's been done. And we do have the capability of ordering those labs for you if necessary. But if you have them done, awesome. You can definitely bring those results into us.
Great. Let's answer this question right here. Let me put this question, because we are talking about lab side effects, etc. And I'm going to butcher this so bad. What existing effects does it have on people with, I'm not a nurse.
Hypothyroidism. I'm sorry. You're like laughing and I was like reading it. So actually, in all reality, I do have some patients that I treat currently that have issues with their thyroid. If their thyroid function is within normal limits, that's great. We can go ahead and prescribe the medication. So, and I will give you an example. Actually, I had a patient that I was checking in with the other day. I said, hey, has your doctor, have they repeated labs or anything? Because she's had some thyroid things. She's hypothyroid, she's Hashimoto's, so she's got the autoimmune component to it. And they were actually just recently, her doctor decreased her thyroid medication, which is awesome. So it helps.
Amazing. Let's talk a little bit about, sorry, I am just trying, there's so many questions coming through, which I love. Let's talk about, somebody filled out their lab, like they brought in their lab work, they're good. Let's talk a little bit about the BMI, because I think a couple people have been asking about what is the percentage or what is that number of the BMI they're looking for and how we kind of qualified somebody. So can you mention a little bit about that while I find the question and pin it?
Yeah. So as far as BMI goes, different stipulations and everything, but at images, per our information that we send out to patients, we require a BMI of 27 or greater. So that's pretty much it. I'm not a huge fan of BMI. I'm not going to lie. Because when I was in high school, I was very athletic and my BMI was always elevated. So I'm not a huge fan of BMI. But 27 is kind of like where we go off of. And I will say, like, everybody, like doctors and everything else are obviously different with prescribing the medication. But for our organization specifically, that's what we kind of require, a BMI of 27 or greater.
Perfect. Thank you. And let's talk about, sorry, if we can hear you typing. Let's talk a little bit about, like, when you walk home with the injections, how does that kit look and how do you inject them at home? Because they are weekly injections. And I'm just going to combine a couple of questions with this, but the questions have been, do the injections come pre-drawn up, and how do you administer it yourself? And then I kind of want to give it up, once you answer that, Nicolette, I want to hand it over to Faith just to kind of touch a little bit about how your first time injecting yourself was and how that is now today.
So we do have the capability. I will say that myself personally, I do draw up the medication for my patients. Some patients feel comfortable drawing their own medication, and that's okay. But yes, if you want the medication pre-drawn up for you, you're like, I'm not dealing with that. Can you just do it for me? Done, labeled, week 1, 2, 3, etc. So it's labeled out for you. So you you go in your kit and it's week 2, you grab the number that says 2, that's your injection for that week. Your provider will teach you how to do that injection initially. And I do have, if I really have patients that are like, I cannot do this, I can't, I can't inject myself, more than happy to do the injections for you weekly. I do actually have a patient that comes in weekly for their injection, and then they get a B12 injection as well, which pairs well with it. And helps with that energy boost too. So.
Great. And Faith, let's talk about you and like when you get your kits and whatnot. How comfortable do you feel injecting this yourself weekly and so forth? Or how was your first time?
Yeah, thank you. And so to kind of piggyback off of what Nicolette said, my provider demonstrated it for me first, drew up all of my syringes, labeled them with the dose as well as the week that corresponded with my tracking sheet. So you definitely have a sheet that comes with your kit that's labeled with the week. You can write in the date that you administered administered your injection or the medication, and then also your weigh-in, so your weight for that week. So you can track your progress as well, which I actually liked. And then also your injection site, because you want to kind of switch it up every week so there's no bruising, which I heeded that advice and did not experience any of that. So when it gets to the injection, I actually was really fearful to do it. And my provider was like, you can do this. And so I actually couldn't, but my husband does it for me. So you can get
Love that. So he does it for you every week?
Every single week. He loves it.
Oh my God, what an angel. I need one of those.
He's a keeper. And he's invested in me looking like my pre-baby self, or, my new self. I don't like the term pre-baby, but he's invested in my health and me feeling good and how I was before I had our two kids. So he's helped a lot with that. Kind of reminds me if I forget, but we've been really good about following the schedule. So, yeah.
I love this partnership. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. So I'm getting a couple questions about, some people asking about how semaglutide relates to people who are right now maybe dealing with menopause. Things are changing in that time, and they just want to know, are there any concerns with any hormonal fluctuations by being on this drug?
So as far as I think the majority of the patients that I treat in all reality are like pre-menopause, menopausal. I would have to look into more of like research behind how there's a big deep dive into hormones and everything else like that. And hormones are a crazy thing. And I've watched and done trainings with like functional medicine docs and nurse practitioners, and it's wild. They're awesome. So I do think hormones play a part with you holding on to unnecessary or unwanted fat, I should say. So I do think hormones play a part in it. And when I have patients that come in and say things like that they're working out, they're eating well, I feel for them, because it's like, you're trying and you're doing. I've had patients come in and they're like, I lost 30 pounds already, but this is not me still. So starting them on semaglutide, and it's helped, and it's helped them lose more weight. So I do think hormones play a part into it as well. And I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. I mean, we all know weight loss it's hard, right? I love hearing this question. Someone is or currently on their 5th week, going on 6 of semaglutide. Yay. Any advice on changes that I'm going to hand it over to you, Faith. Any advice on changes that you made while you were on semaglutide that helped you sustain that weight loss?
Yes, thank you. I saw that question come in and I thought that was a really good question. I made the lifestyle changes that I needed to. So I talked to Allie a lot about this before, but before the pandemic, which coincided with my first pregnancy, I was very healthy. And so I had all of these goals of like, I will be that, cute, fit, pregnant person who's like soul cycling all the time, and I won't gain that much weight. That didn't happen because the world shut down. And then I got pregnant again right after that. So my kids are really close in age. And so I think semaglutide for me was like the opportunity to have a reset. to say, okay, the last 3 years or 2.5 years happened. You have a good foundation, like go back to that foundation. And so the changes were what I kind of referenced in the beginning, what Nicolette has talked about too, are those lifestyle changes. Yes, am I with appetite suppression, the feeling of fullness definitely is super helpful, but also being thoughtful of like my relationship with food. Like, am I stress eating? Because that could still happen with this medication. Am I making the right dietary choices? And then being active. So I joined a wellness gym, which I talked to Allie about. I do yoga at least 3 or 4 times a week. I also do some treatments, which Allie and I can talk about a little bit more too. M-Sculpt has not only helped me with like less so weight loss, but I have realistic goals too, given I've had 2 kids, but like just strengthening the muscles there because I do practice yoga. And I've noticed just how I am just stronger in those areas in which I'm doing in sculpt. I've also, and that wasn't at 6 weeks, I think you're in the middle of, I'm assuming your first treatment, but like the dietary changes were what I really worked on. And then when I went a lot further along in my treatment and I saw progress, I started pairing some other treatments with it. So again, M-Sculpt, I just started Cool Sculpting, so we can talk about that a little bit more if folks are interested. But really, it's the lifestyle changes. And semaglutide makes the mastery of that, like, you feel good. Like when we feel like we're losing weight, we're on the right track, the right stride. It reinforces those behaviors, and that was true for me. I'm trained as a clinical psychologist, so I like know it cognitively, but when the pandemic set a lot of us off track, and so getting back to that really helped. And semaglutide was like kind of the match.
Yeah, I'd love to hear. We were talking about it earlier. Like, we're not in our 20s anymore. Like, we can't just bounce back in a week, from just eating salads. Like, I'm eating salads for 6 months and I still see nothing. So we totally get that. And this is actually a really interesting question that kind of pairs a little bit. But, someone asked, what percentage of people actually keep the weight off after getting off the drug? I'm going to hand over to Nicolette first, just so you can answer that, please.
I love that question. And that's usually a question that I get asked after doing a consult. So I specifically, and I will say, like, once you're on the medication, let's say you're on 1 milligram, 1.2 milligrams, wherever you're at with the dose. I always say, so research shows it takes 6 to 8 weeks of continuous good eating habits, discipline, basically good eating habits, good portion control, exercise, etc., to build a habit and sustain that habit. So what I typically do is I'll leave a patient once they're at around their goal weight or at that dose. I'll leave them on that dose for about 6 to 8 weeks. And then we talk about weaning down. Patients are weaned down off of their medication back to kind of that starting dose to where that they can stop the medication. I can say that I have weaned patients down off of the medication where they stopped it, because the goal is obviously afterwards to stop the medication and continue those lifestyle changes, those habits, those healthy habits to carry you through to maintain that weight loss. So by doing that, you're learning those things. And I'm sure, Faith, you can kind of attest to this with, it's kind of a mental game. And it's learning, how to do those healthy things again, because you know what to do. It's just actually doing them sometimes. So I think this medication really helps. But for the patients that I have successfully, weaned down and they've stopped the medication, they've gained a few pounds back, possibly. I think I had a patient that told me that she gained about 5 pounds back, but she's like, in the grand scheme of things, losing 50 pounds, 5 pounds is nothing. And I'm like, I was just like, astounded by that. So, and as women, our weight's going to fluctuate regardless. With if we work out, we're going to be retaining more water. If you went out and ate like what you ate the day before. So your weight is going to fluctuate. And that's another thing I always say is, don't get so caught up in the number on the scale, or don't weigh yourself every day. That's overkill. You're going crazy. Then you're going to put yourself like round and round. So yeah, patients can stop the medication. And like I said, maybe you will gain a pound or two. You might gain some weight back, but those lifestyle changes are really what's going to carry you through.
I'm going to mix around some questions into one because there's still a lot of questions that keep coming up and follow up on, okay, you are off the medication. Once you've reached your weight loss goal, you're off the medication. Obviously we've talked about being able to continue your healthy choices, eating healthy, working out. But everyone's different, right? Not everyone's going to be on semaglutide for the same period of time. Can you talk a little bit, Nicolette, about what a vial, which is the first treatment, or what a treatment looks like, and how that journey kind of works?
So as far as when you start the medication, that first round of medication, we start you off at a low 0.25 milligram dose. We increase that dose every 3 weeks. So for that first round of medication, by that 10th week, you're at 1 milligram. And again, there is room to go up past 1 milligram. There's a max dose of 2 milligrams. But the goal is that 1 to 2 pounds of weight loss a week. If you're losing that, if you're continuing to lose at least a pound a week, I'll keep you on that 1 milligram then. As a provider, if you're continuing to lose, there's no reason to increase that dose. Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
So for example, Faith, just so you could talk a little bit about this, when you started with your dosage, you obviously, you said you went up. Are you in the same dosage? Have you gone down? What have your dosages been in the past couple months?
Thank you for asking. I think that's a good point, because I am at the 50 pound weight loss mark, which is great. I still am. Thank you. I was
That's
10
awesome.
pounds away from my ultimate weight loss goal, which was how I was my pre-baby weight. And I am nervous. I like that, Nicolette, you answered that question of being tapered off. So I am currently, my dosing is decreasing. So being tapered down, titrated down, and just going into the hopefully maintenance phase, especially once I get to my goal weight. Again, being kind to myself and collaborating with my provider. But I tolerated increasing the dosage really well. I think I hit one of the max, and I was also still losing weight. And so my provider was just hey, do you want to go up a little bit more? And here's a script for Zofran. If you ever get really sick, you can also, we talked about if I needed to put some more back in the vial, come in for assistance with that. Like I said, the women, the providers are just incredible. And so I did not have to do that. I don't even know where that script is, because I'm in Zofran. Sorry for those who aren't aware. It helps with nausea, vomiting, controlling some of those symptoms. So if you were worried about that, what I really liked was my provider just started off with that. Here is a script, get it filled if needed. So it was kind of just a safety net for me. But I, handled it well. And currently I'm in so we are titrating down.
I saw this question pop up, and I think this is really good. Let's pretend that someone's been on it and they took a break, let's just say for the holidays, and they're going back on it, because I've seen this happen too, right? Especially coming back from the holidays. Do you go on a lower dosage, a higher dosage? How does that happen for anybody that decides to just take a month off or something like that?
So I think I saw you pin the question as far as do you need to be tapered down once you're at? So there's no contraindication to just stopping the medication. You can just stop the medication. However, with doing that, you are at an increased risk basically of gaining more weight back. So that's why we recommend tapering you off of and weaning down on the medication to where you're back down on that lowest dose. And if you want to continue to stay on a maintenance dose, we can keep you on a maintenance dose 100%. Or if you are like, you know what, I think I'm ready to stop this, and you decide to stop it, great. And then if something happens where you're like, oh my gosh, I stopped, like this isn't feeling right, we can always restart and just put you back on a maintenance dose for, a little bit of extra support.
Great. And I think that relationship with your provider and communicating what your goals are, because everyone's different. Everyone's journey is going to be different. Everyone's going to lose weight different. And you really can't compare every single case study or every single story to yourself. Everything's going to be so different. So everything is going to be on a case by case, basis. And it's
100%.
just having that constant communication of you and your provider is going to be huge. I have been asked a lot of questions about costs and insurance, so I do want to cover that. A treatment, so a vial of semaglutide is $800. And then do you want to touch a little bit about whether insurance covers it or other payment options, Nicolette?
So we do not go through insurance. Insurance is I know too much about insurance, and it's not, it can be a mess sometimes. So in all honesty, even when physicians, when endocrinologists are trying to put this medication through, some of the insurance just denies it. So we at Images do not go through insurance to process anything with the medication, just because it turns into a messy situation. So we don't go through insurance. However, we do have different, payment options too. We have Cherry Finance. There's you can, use Care Credit if that's something that you use. So there's different ways that you can, use to pay basically for the medication. But and that's as far as like semi-gluten goes. So I always say every time we order the medication, there's an $800 charge. The tirzepatide is a little bit more expensive. It does cost a little bit more. So I just wanted to clarify that and like throw that out there too. So.
Perfect. I saw this question jump in and I'm obsessed. What treatments pair well with semaglutide?
Faith, do you want to take it away?
Yes, Faith. Faith has also dabbled into some other treatments along with her semaglutide journey. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Faith.
Yes. Like I said, love the Images staff, love the providers. So I am still dabbling in so Emsculpt. I actually started with Emsculpt to like tone. Again, I'm very realistic, so I'm not like, hey, this is the magic bullet of abs and like I'm expecting a six-pack after, X amount of sessions. Instead, I actually really wanted my core to be strengthened so that I can see the impact like when I'm working out or playing with my kids. Nicolette actually has a story about like someone who's like playing with their grandkids and just how you feel stronger. And so semaglutide has helped me with that, but I wanted some more core ab work done. And so I worked with a provider at the Mokina location, and she actually said, what would be really helpful for you in addition to Emsculpt is CoolSculpting, like pairing the two together. And so I was actually more afraid of CoolSculpting just because there's some indications, but I tried it, and I'm the type of person where I get really fearful and my anxiety is heightened, and then I do something and I'm like, oh, that was it. And that was CoolSculpting for me. Thankfully, fingers crossed. I have a few more treatments left, but I already see results. I can't wait to take some photos for you ladies and like to show you. But it's just helping me feel good. So again, for like those people who have like that stubborn belly fat, especially, you know, ladies who, belly fat, it helps with that. Like semaglutide helps with that. But like someone like me who's had pregnancies back to back, the cool sculpting is appropriate for me because I'm also really fearful of like more invasive treatment, and something that's non-invasive, low risk, high reward, like sign me up. So I've started it. I love it. I still have some other areas that I want to try. And then again, I'm continuing with M-Sculpt. So I've done M-Sculpt in my abs, cool sculpting in my lower abs, upper abs. I plan to do cool sculpting in my flanks, or what we call love handles. And then I also will want to do M-Sculpt in my buttocks, my butt area, to like kind of lift.
Yes.
Well, so really, I'm a live at images for the next 5 years.
We love to hear it. But yeah, like let's talk about some of these treatments, right? Because you were mentioning, you know, while M-Sculpt doesn't necessarily help you lose weight, it is helping you strengthen your muscle. And that's what M-Sculpt does, right? Strengthen the muscle. And I've seen some videos where there's like M-Sculpt and then like there's people with abs. It's like, no, that's not those kind of muscles, but just strengthening the core, right? Like, and we think about core, we think about like our movement, even like postpartum, that core is what we're thinking when we talk about M-Sculpt. Cool Sculpt, freezing stubborn fat. That is, and I saw that question pop up where, you know, you have some belly fat, some little like pinchable fat. If you can pinch it, you can freeze it. That's the motto. Freeze it with Cool Sculpt. And now there's other treatments too. You know, let's just say that you've lost the weight, you're blessed and don't have any pinchable fat. You do have some core, but what you do have is excessive loose skin in the stomach area. And we see that, right? Like whether it's from C-sections or anything like that. Radio frequency microneedling is also such a great treatment for your body area. I'm sure everyone's seen Kim Kardashian do it on her stomach with the Morpheus 8. That's what radio frequency is. But I want Nicolette to talk a little bit about loss of volume and what happens when you also lose weight, right? Because, you know, I'm going to joke a little bit, but like, you know, we see everybody have that, like what they're calling like the skinny face with their cheekbones and everything like that, which some people think it looks great, but really it's just a loss of volume from all the weight loss. So Nicolette, I'm going to hand it over to you to kind of maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, and just to touch really, so I have some patients that come in, they're like, oh, I just want to lose, because I saw a question pop up about it as far as like, I have belly fat. Will semi help? I can't tell you where you're going to lose weight when you go on the medication. So that I can't tell you. However, you know, you might lose it in your face, you might lose it in your abdomen or whatnot. So as far as like, Allie, you just mentioned the skinny face. There's different treatments that we can do with injectables as far as, you know, filler to help with some of that volume loss, Sculptra to help with that collagen reproduction. It's a biostimulator. It's going to reproduce that collagen, hyperdilute Radiesse. You know, there's things that we can do to help with that volume loss. So as far as injectables goes, and they pair well with being on the medication. And I know Faith just spoke about some of the body treatments as well. So really the options are endless there.
Great. I think I've seen this like twice. Can you drink while you're on semaglutide? Faith, are you drinking while you're on semaglutide?
Well, I don't drink that much to begin with, but yes, you absolutely can drink. And I would like, hopefully I'm saying this, Nicolette, you will correct me if I should not be drinking. It's typically just like a glass of wine. But I have, again, tolerated it so well. I don't even think about that when like, oh shoot, will this like, you know, make me more nauseous than normal? I have tolerated it very well. So when I do have a glass of wine, I was just in Cancun. I had some water there and quotes on water, and I was fine, tolerated it well. So I again, am not like a heavy drinker. I do it infrequently, more of a social drinker, one glass of wine here and there, and I've tolerated it well.
And Nicolette, what will you tell your patients?
I have some patients that they have no effect, like they can drink like they normally do. And I have some patients that they just don't have the affinity, they don't have the taste for it. So they don't drink as much. So if you're a glass of wine a night type of girl, you might only be drinking a glass of wine, a week or something like that. So
Perfect.
I like this question.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, I think somebody was just talking about how someone was on semaglutide for 18 months. And when we were talking about side effects and feeling sick to your stomach, that it will pass. So, Faith is blessed. She's never had any side effects, but, it does happen, like the nausea. And so thank you so much, Pamela, for writing this. Don't be discouraged if that happens to you because it will pass. Like anything new that you put in your body just probably needs to get used to it, right? Here's a great question. Do you consider this a lifelong commitment?
with being on the medication,
Yeah.
no.
Okay.
As far as a lifestyle change to continue your weight loss journey, yes. This is not just like a quick fix, and I say that to patients all the time. If you're looking for a quick fix, if you think like I'm going to go on the medication, I'm going to come off and just do the same things, this is healthy habits, lifestyle change, and I always say to my patients, it's not like you're never going to want to eat, like you're never going to eat pizza or you're never going to eat chips and guac. And I love Mexican food. So, you're never going to not want to eat that again. You will, and you'll eat that. And that's okay. It's more or less portion control. Instead of eating 4 slices of pizza, you might only eat one. Instead of, downing a full bag of chips with a thing of guac, like you might only have a little bit. So it's more or less healthy lifestyle change. And like I said, it's okay to eat those things. It's not like you have to eat, oh, I can only eat the healthiest things. I can only eat fruits and veggies. I can only eat, like, you're going to eat, pizza. You're going to go, like, that's okay. That's life. You're not expected not to just stop life. Keep living life. You're just not going to eat as much as, the bad stuff that you may have
The
before.
overeating, right?
Yeah.
It's like I go to a restaurant and there's never leftovers.
Right.
So Faith, let me kind of jump a little bit with you on that. You've been on it almost a year, 50 pounds down, right? We're adding, there's been changes to your lifestyle. We're adding other treatments. Like, what do you see 2024 for you? Like, what do you see this journey on? And do you think you're going to get off of it, go in a smaller dose? I kind of want to hear from you what you think.
My goal is to like discontinue it and see how maintenance looks. One option I've heard from my provider and other people at the spa is that, you can always do it again. I tolerate it. Well, worst case, and I don't know, for me, that's reassuring. Like you kind of have this option in my back pocket. I know there's a lot of stigma sometimes attached with this and using it for some of these purposes, but I do think like what Nicolette said about like it's not making you discontinue eating. Like food is a big part of my life, and I enjoy eating. We live in, and people live in the Chicagoland area. I know you can understand that, attest to that. We have great restaurants, great options, but it does make you more aware. Like I'm a sweets girl, so I love chocolate. I would eat like one Hershey Kiss, try for 2, and then my body's like, I just don't even want anymore. It's like it's different
Yeah.
how I approach it. And so I really like that. And then to that point of like, this too will pass with like any waves of like, okay, maybe I ate too much. It does pass. So I would like to see myself without it, because it has been a year. I think there's some internal dialogue even with myself, like, oh, you've used this, like, it's just a dear old friend now. Like, I don't want to say goodbye. But I've reached my goal. Like, I am 10 pounds away. And it's an investment, but it's an investment in myself. And I would not change it I've had a very, very good experience. Again, minor here and there, if like I eat something too spicy. I also love spicy food. That is something that I did have to watch. Like, too much, my body will say no thank you, and I would have to drink some kombucha or something, to kind of settle, and I was fine. So for me, it would be saying see you later, or hopefully goodbye, to my dear friend Semaglutide in 2024, and working to maintain, working on some of these other body treatments, seeing if I do need some fillers in my face, because I did lose a significant amount of weight, but I carried my weight. I don't really carry it in my face. I do carry it in other areas. So really exploring with images like, some of the options you ladies described, some that I wasn't even familiar with. And I'm like, oh, let me put that on my talk
Right.
about one. I think it's next.
Come on in.
Exactly. So I'm curious of like how I maintain in 2024. So,
Yeah. I love that. And we've all been there where we've been in the gym already 3 months in and we've only lost like what, 1 to 2, 3 pounds. And that's discouraging. When you're discouraged, it's easier to give up, to say like, screw this. I'm just going to go back and, whatever. But when you've lost the weight and like you saying, you've reached you've almost reached your goal. You look amazing. It's like, even if you get off of it, you're not going to go back to your old ways, eating naughty foods, eating a bag of chips, because like you feel good. You want to maintain and still look the way that you do. So I appreciate that. We do have just a few more minutes. I just want to thank you both so much for coming. I know that there's still a couple other questions that I haven't really gone through that much. So what I'm going to do is we're going to send everybody a recording of this. If you feel like you are ready to start your semaglutide journey, there should be a pop-up that has appeared in the past 30 minutes where you can schedule a 30-minute virtual consultation with one of our nurse practitioners. From in this 30 minutes, you can ask them more questions. If you have some lab work done under that 1-year mark, bring those. We can qualify you later. Just real quick, Nicolette, what is the BMI that we look for qualification?
27 or greater.
27 or greater for BMI. And
I will say, if you're kind of on the cusp, and you want some more information, like just schedule a quick consult, and we can talk about things like that. So.
Yeah. And I mean, while this is virtual too, when we get you in person too, we also like to, measure your body fat, weigh yourself, take some before photos so you can really see what your results are going to be and what your journey looks like. So I hope you enjoyed this. Again, if you have more questions, I'm seeing them. I will create a nice little Q&A blog to answer a lot of these were just a lot. I tried to answer the ones that are the most popular. We also going to have a little survey pop up. So I know I asked you a little poll earlier on, what brought you in today, but after hearing everything, I kind of want to know, how are we leaving off and what you're going to do this year? So, and Nicolette, Faith, thank you so much for tonight. Faith, thank you for sharing your journey with us. We're going to have to post in 6 months where you're looking now, or maybe some of your Cancun photos we'll post. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful evening, and thanks again for tuning in with us.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.